This is Muzaffar Ali. You're watching me on Grazia. I think it's really very gratifying experience, and it's the people who are bringing it to life and to the screen now. Otherwise, without the will of the people and without the desire of the people to see the film again, it wouldn't happen. So the whole restoration process, the the release process, everything is driven by people's desire to see Umrao Jaan. Well, I think it's a film that doesn't leave people, it hasn't left me, and I'd like to share this with the new generation, with the modern generation, and I think they need to see the film for their own gratification and for their own experience and enrichment. The whole Umrao Jaan dream was all about a character who lives life in a very kind of a deep, organic way. And the novel that was written by Mirza Hadi Ruswa went into great depth about her experiences. So when I read the book, I felt that this is a character whose story needs to be told. But first, I must possess the story, I must own the story. So I kept hearing it over and over again. And then I found my own Umrao Jaan in that story. And that Umrao Jaan was something that was my connection with Lucknow. That was my connection with the past, with poetry, with culture, with textiles. So that when I began to fully own it and possess it, that's the time I wanted to share it with people. Well, it's a big challenge to design a period film because you have to go into the kind of textiles craft that was prevalent at that time. And then you have to also go into the cinematic look and feel of the costumes, how it behaves in light, how it behaves in movement. And then you have to also see the mood of the scene and the color and your palette. And and then you realize that these are costumes which are very organic costumes. They are part of a life. They are part of a kind of an experience, and you can't buy them in shops. You can't ask designers to make these costumes. They have to be your own experience. So therefore, I sketched them out and I pulled out costumes from cupboards, from trunks of people. Subhashini was with me, and we went together and put all these costumes together. That textile is a very rich medium of telling a story, because each person today tells a story of their life through what they wear. And in those days, it was a much more deeper way of telling a story. So Awadh is replete with such richness, and that's what I felt. I had a very big kind of challenge, and it was also an asset. Well, first of all, the choice of Rekha was very important choice. She had to convey the Umrao that was in my dream, and then working with her had to be very quiet, very organic, very kind of. You can't dictate a scene to somebody. It has to be born out of the other person. I think art is to be owned and born out of the artist. So to make the artist become an artist was an art in itself. So working with Rekha for me was a big challenge, but smooth flowing river. She just took to the role very beautifully and became that character, became that scene, became that problem, became that predicament in a very natural kind of way. This is something which I think only Rekha could do. And then she took to Urdu very beautifully. Her Urdu is like any other very well-versed person's Urdu. See, a film is made of many, many, many people. It's a whole milieu. You're creating tableaus, you're creating crowds, you're creating intimate scenes, and then every person has to be a person of that time and era. So each person demands the same kind of detailing as the big star. So you can't have the star look one thing and the side people look something else. So they have to be part of one feeling. So I think working for me it's a great joy because I love textiles and I love what textiles can do to a person. I think cinema can do many, many, many things. It can revive places, it can revive tourism, and certainly it can bring textiles and craft traditions alive. It's a very powerful medium to tell the craft story. I think it's one organic narrative which emerges from all these things, and you have to first of all understand your roots. You have to understand where you're coming from, where you're going. So there's a whole process of the clothing journey, and how each craftsman adds value to that. That is very important. And I think today the relationship between the wearer and the craftsman has to be much more meaningful, more organic. See, I am a poetry driven person and I see everything as an inspiration from poetry. Poetry is really the highest art form as far as I'm concerned. And it can sum up a whole world, it can sum up a whole uh, feeling, and that's what I did in Umrao Jaan, that's what I did in Gaman. In Gaman, the whole ethos of migration is expressed through poem. And right from the Thumri of Aja Samariya To Hai Garwa Lagan, Raske Bhare To Rehne. Now that is again a angst of migration. And then सीने में जलन आंखों में तूफान सा क्यों है इस शहर में हर शख्स परेशान सा क्यों है. This is again the angst of a migrant. So that way poetry becomes a very important part of telling a story, and and that's what happened in Umrao Jaan. The whole poetry tells the story of the character of Umrao.